Hello and welcome back to my cave, or, studio. We're back here again at the dawn of time, or 8 a.m, it's pretty much the same thing. Telling stories on our cave walls, or, YouTube, the 21st century cave wall. Okay, so to be clear, I have not completely lost my mind. Not yet. I mean, yeah, I've dressed up in a Fred Flintstone outfit early on a workday, rambling about cavemen to be streamed out to the whole world. Yet this might not have been the best idea. No, come on, if the Prime Minister of the country can make random references about cavemen, so can I. I'm going to explain exactly why the leader of our country referenced cavemen this week, specifically the cavemen in hit DreamWorks movie The Croods, and explain everything else that's going on in the crazy land of Parliament in this week's episode of Politics Made OK. And I'm going to do this all wearing a Fred Flintstone outfit. No, I can't do this. This is ridiculous. Sorry, it's not going to work. Can we roll titles, please? I'm so sorry. I couldn't take myself seriously, talking about cavemen when it comes to nationally important issues like COVID-19. I mean, that would just be ridiculous. If you haven't caught on yet, I'm talking about something our Prime Minister said this week, which will not easily be forgotten. Let's rewind to that moment many moons ago, or Tuesday. The PM was being grilled on why some states, specifically WA and Queensland, weren't really following what he had in mind when it came to reopening the country and ditching some of those COVID restrictions like lockdowns. So when he was asked, what are you going to do about this, PM, and what do you think about some of these divisions, he said, well, it's pretty similar to the Croods. I'm just going to say that again. What he's saying there is that this division between states and the federal government is not dissimilar to the plot of 2013 animated movie The Croods. For those of you who haven't watched this movie, it's about this teenage cave girl, Eep, who's voiced by Emma Stone, and she wants to get out from her cave that's ruled over by the domineering father, Grug, who's voiced by Nicolas Cage, and on her journey she finds this other caveman about her age called Guy, who shows them all these incredible new ways of living, and I'm just going to put this down for now. So what was the PM actually saying when he was invoking the Croods when it came to COVID-19 management? Well, he said it's like that movie The Croods. People wanted to stay in the cave, some wanted to stay in the cave, and that young girl, she wanted to go out and live again and deal with the challenges of living in a different world. Well, COVID is a new, different world, and we need to get out there and live in it. We can't stay in the cave, and we can get out there safely. I have no words. I guess what he's saying there is hesitancy to wind back COVID-19 restrictions is like staying in a cave, and that makes us cave people? I mean, DreamWorks must have been stoked, because the day this happened, the searches for The Croods on Google, it just skyrocketed. Even now, when you type in The Croods to Google, on the right, you see, oh, there's the 2013 animated movie. And then on the left, you're like, oh, there's the Prime Minister of Australia. Now, it didn't take long for states to hit back, particularly in WA, where Premier Mark McGowan made it pretty clear that he thought the caveman reference was in reference to Western Australians. Anyway, he called this whole disagreement a Seinfeld debate. He said it was a debate about nothing, which is kind of funny because that was the premise of Seinfeld, That was so much pop culture. Now, for those of you that don't read the West Australian every single day like good little girls and boys, that whole thing ended in this front page. Yeah, it was a day. But there's a big question when it comes to all of this, which is what the hell is going on? And also, what does any of it mean? And of course, why do I care? All of this disagreement is about the National Plan, which is this 4-phase plan that was agreed upon in National Cabinet between the federal government and all the different states and territories. Now, as you can see, the National Plan has different vaccine thresholds in it. So when we reach 70% of vaccinating the whole population, things will happen like those who've had both jabs will not be subject to the same kinds of restrictions and so on. Where there seems to be disagreement is how long lockdowns will continue, how targeted those lockdowns will be, and so on. Morrison for the last few weeks has said we're going to start seeing an easing of restrictions between 70 and 80%. But McGowan said, no, we're going to keep doing everything we've been doing for the past 18 months and keep using lockdowns and so on, even after 80% of the population is vaccinated. McGowan even said that that was in the plan, that this national plan allows for lockdowns beyond 70 and 80%. So, who is right? Well, kind of both, and neither. As you can see, at 70 and 80%, there is still the possibility of lockdowns, but it says that they are less likely and also that they can only be really targeted once we get to about 80%. It's only when we get to phase D, the final phase of the plan, that we see no lockdowns at all. There's not really a threshold that's linked to that as clearly as the others, so it kind of makes sense why there's a bit of a grey area. The disagreement, though, is when we start shifting in the way we treat COVID. Like, Morrison has already started saying, we've got to start living with this disease. Whereas McGowan said there's no tolerance for it, and we want to get to 0 cases, and we'll keep using lockdowns. See how those things don't really add up? Anyway, so as you can see, there's a lot of fighting about just some very small details and numbers and words. Welcome to politics. So, what else has been going on this week besides, Seinfeld and the Croods? I never thought I'd be saying that sentence in this job. What interesting times we live in. A really interesting thing that happened this week is that an ex-Liberal MP who became an independent earlier this year, that's where you just represent yourself, you're not really part of a party. This guy has now joined a new party, and that is the United Australia Party. This guy's name is Craig Kelly, and he represents the seat of Hughes in New South Wales. Now, he was part of the government up until February this year. What happened then? Well, the PM gave him what's been known as a dressing down, which is basically him saying, no, bad Craig, bad. And he did that because Craig was basically spreading all of this misinformation about unproven COVID-19 treatments and the like all over his social media. And that was very different to what was going on in the government, where there was all this messaging about, not spreading misinformation and unproven COVID treatments. So anyway, Craig left the party and became an independent, but said, hey, I'm probably going to still vote for a lot of Liberal policies because I still agree with all their values mostly. But then, on Monday, this happened.
I've decided to accept the offer to lead the United Australia Party at the next election.
The United Australia Party. Ring any bells? No. Need your memory jogged? Well, let me give you a hint. It's founded and run by this guy. That's right, Queensland billionaire Clive Palmer. Now, Palmer is known for things like spending tens of millions of dollars on advertising campaigns for the last federal election, where he didn't win any seats. None. Ouch. Clive Palmer's also been on a campaign to sue the WA government again and again and again. The legal battles have mostly been about WA's hard borders and COVID restrictions, which Palmer has said have been unconstitutional. But other battles include not having a mining project of his assessed a decade ago, and so it never came to fruition and earned him more money. And in response to that, he said the WA government owed him $30 billion. I've been to many of the court cases. The last one, he even cried. And they're like a handkerchief and everything. God, I love my job. So, why did Craig Kelly join Palmer's party?
Today, I no longer recognise the country that I grew up in. And if we continue on this current path, I fear for our nation's future.
Looks like the anti-lockdown party has another member. But the United Australia Party isn't the only ones that are pretty against lockdowns and COVID restrictions. We've seen in the last few weeks protests across the country against the lockdowns and COVID restrictions, some of them happening in cities where there are huge outbreaks, like Sydney. And we wonder why the case numbers just keep on rising. Yeah, it was really a bit of a week. And there's probably another week just like it around the corner because, well, there's another week of sitting. Yay! But I'll be here to explain it to you and, of course, just to make politics okay. I'm Sarah Ison. Please like, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and I'll catch you next time on PMO.